Hi everyone, I am Christina, the Optimistic Chick, and my channel is about mostly bipolar disorder, but it's also about CPTSD, it's about malady of mental health symptoms and coping mechanisms I've used over decades of having many symptoms. Today is going to be special in that I'm going to do something I have never done before with the public, and that is I am going to take you all back to where my illnesses all began. It may be in parts because I don't want it to get too long, but I'm going to kind of give you where everything began, and hopefully it'll be interesting and informative for you. I'm going to be covering many topics, many types of diagnoses. But before we start, it would really help me if you'd hit the like and subscribe button, because I've been on this channel for several years and I never push my audience to like and subscribe or follow. I don't make any money here, and that's fine with me, except for me to make content on a regular basis, I really need, to be monetized. And the only way I can get monetized is if I reach 1,000 followers. So if I can do that, I can put out content on a regular basis. On another note, I'm going to be starting a podcast, which is going to have a little twist. And so that's a surprise coming. It has a little twist to it. I think you'll like it. So anyway, let's get started. All right, to begin with, most of my viewers know that I have bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features, mixed state, rapid cycling, which I've dealt with for many years. I had my first diagnosis of manic depression when I was 16. But let's go back to the very beginning. And also, before I do that, I want to give you some of my other diagnoses. I have ADHD, I have CPTSD, and I have dissociative identity disorder. Okay, so now let's go back to where it all started. When I was 8 years old, my father got very sick. He had heart problems, and my mother and father sat me down and told me that he had to have major surgery. And this was, way back when heart surgery, open heart surgery was, very new. But they said that, if he lived a very sedate life, he might live 2 years. And when I got upset, they explained to me that we were realists, and realists accepted life, death, and everything the way it was. People are born, they die, and that was that. Well, I didn't know if realism was my religion or what it was, but that was the birth of my anxiety, because every day that I went to school, I wondered, is my dad going to be alive when I came back home? And so I call it the birth of my neuroses. It was also at that time, and keep in mind this is about 8 years old, that during school, I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to leave my parents. And I would throw tantrums to try to stay in the car, refuse to get out. But when I did get out, I would be so hysterical that I would even chase their car at times, which, of course, made me the perfect target to being laughed at and made fun of, and that led to bullying. And it wasn't physical bullying, it was just name calling and stuff. But I was a really tiny child to begin with, and obviously emotionally fragmented. And so the bullying that was just name calling, it got more intense, and I started acting out in even more weird ways. I began pulling my hair out in clumps, and this is where things start getting fuzzy, because I only have blocks of memory that I can remember, but I do know that I did go to teachers and principals and nothing was done. I don't remember if I went to my parents or not. They were very stoic, and they had a lot going on. They had a lot on their plate. I think it was when I was turning 9 that my anxiety was like overflowing. And I don't know why I chose going to my dad, but I went to my dad and I asked if I could talk to him. And I explained to him that, I couldn't bear the thought of him dying, and how was I going to live without him? What was I going to do? What was going to happen? And I know he meant only the best. And I've never questioned this, but it had a very different effect, because when I said that, his response to me was, "You don't need to worry about me dying. Your mom, I'm doing great. Your mom, she's going to die before me, so don't you worry." And it was good intentions, but in my little 9-year-old neurotic brain, I knew one parent was dying. That had been confirmed. Now I had 2 parents that were going to die. So my anxiety was ramped up, tenfold. Well, it was about almost 2 years to the date of my father's surgery, when, that inevitable day came to fruition. I grew up riding horses, and my parents rode horses. And that particular day, my father and I were out together alone on a 2,500-acre ranch, very remote. And we were riding our horses. And the story I tell and the actual truth is unclear. And I'm being honest when I say that, because I've told a story that I have chosen to remember for most of my life. I don't really know exactly the whole details. But what I have told is that, I do know we were riding our horses, and I do know one moment he was galloping his horse and he did look happy, and the next moment he was on the ground and he had had a massive heart attack and he was dead. That I know. And it's unclear, but I sat with him for almost 8 hours. I don't remember any of that time sitting with him. When I tell the story, I don't say 8 hours. I make it sound like it was a very peaceful departure from the world. He died with his hat and boots on. It took a long time before I could be honest with myself that I, didn't remember anything. There was a lot of guilt associated for me with that day, because I just remember sitting quiet, and then when people found us, hours and hours later, there was total chaos and noise. And that is part of my CPTSD, is that I am very startled by noise, loud noises, and it bothers me badly. And when they came, everything was people crying and pounding on his chest, and I don't remember anyone asking me how I was. And I just remember sitting there, and then, if anything, if I'm honest, and I'm always honest, I think I felt relieved that it was over, the waiting. And that's so hard to admit, because there's so much guilt that goes with it. I don't remember crying. Maybe I did, but that's when the dissociation came in. And I didn't know that, but I dissociated. And dissociative identity disorder can be, mine was from trauma. I didn't have a multiple personality, though dissociative identity can be multiple personality. My subconscious just blacked everything out. And so in a future episode, I'm going to explain kind of the difference between a FWAG state and dissociation. Dissociation from childhood trauma and extended childhood trauma, which is what mine was. It was not from abuse. It was from neglect. And when I say that, and it's hard for me to say that because I loved my mother and still love, even though she's not with us, I didn't have support from my family, my mom, in the sense of emotional support. before, during, or after my father's death. I was on my own. And that is something, while I always thought that I dealt with it well, I began doing very strange things after my father's death. And I think that's why I've always had a really good grasp of my own mental health, even though I haven't always handled it well, is because I always knew there had to be some reason for what I have done, what I've done. And I kind of have psychoanalyzed myself. And of course, I see a neuropsychiatrist and have for over 14 years. And he has kind of agreed with me. So I have some basis for my theory. But what started happening after my father's death was, my mom, she was just broken from losing her husband. And she loved me so much, but she just couldn't show any emotional love or support. So I had the horses, and that was where they were my friends, they were everything. And in high school, I wasn't bullied, but I did start doing weird things to get before high school, to get attention, any attention. I put my hand through pane glass windows, and even that didn't get me in trouble or anything. It was just because any attention would have been better than none, but I got none. And it was just really strange. I jumped out of a second-story building. It wasn't real high, but nothing seemed to get me anywhere. And when I was about 11, a year or so after my father died, my mom had a gentleman visitor, and I discovered them together, which would have been perfectly normal, I didn't see anything weird, but I discovered that she had a friend over, and I went into a complete hysteria, and I ran downstairs, and this is where another crazy part of my brain became ignited, and that is psychogenic blackouts. So I experienced psychogenic blackouts during extreme stress. I still do to this day. And that first time, I was screaming, and how could you do this? How could you do this after Dad? And all of a sudden I just black out. It's not like a fainting blackout, and it's not like any other kind of blackout. It's just all of a sudden losing consciousness and dropping like a log and then having no recollection of anything. But that is when it started, when I was 11. Now, I never knew my mom always called them fainting spells or low blood sugar, but that wasn't what it was. It's psychogenic blackouts. It's from an extreme amount of stress, and that is the way my brain or nervous system, whatever, handles that, takes me out of that situation. So that's not really a diagnosis, but that's what I experience under extreme duress. Now, during high school, I think I was pretty much acting like a normal teenager, and then, with moods and stuff. And then at 16, something happened. And again, this is all now as an adult, being able to look back and psychoanalyze myself, and figure out why I did what I did, because it was all so strange and unexplainable at the time. But at 16, I became very moody. Up and down, up and down. I had not started any kind of menstrual cycle. I didn't until I was 19. How odd is that? But I became very moody suddenly. And then I was picked up by my brother, who was 16 years older than me, who I adore to this day. And long story short, I was told that, and he was like a surrogate father, basically. but I was told that he was gay, and I was really surprised. Now, I love and was from that point on, you know, brought up in a very friendly society with that. But at that moment, it was a shock. And 2 weeks later, and it was premeditated, and I can say that honestly, and I now know why I did what I did, but I tried to commit suicide. And I did, I followed through. And I took a bunch of pills, and I had, my brother was up visiting, and my other brother who lived on our ranch, and I made this big point of saying, you need to come back. They were having dinner. And I said, you need to come back by 9 o'clock. And I was like really insistent. It was a very vindictive thing on my part, but I admit that. But this is my analysis looking back, because there's no other reason. Now, I did overdose. I was taken to the hospital. I almost died. Got my stomach pumped, and of course was ordered a psych eval. And a year of psychotherapy, and I was diagnosed with ADHD and bipolar. They didn't diagnose me with CPTSD at that time. All right, this might be a good time to stop and wait and go on to episode 2, because it's getting really long. So why don't we do that, and tomorrow I will go to episode 2 and we will tell you what happens next. Thanks for watching, you guys. Please like and subscribe. As always, if you want to reach out, contact me personally, you're always welcome to do so. Thank you for being here.